The Catalyst Effect podcast will document the creation of a new company called Glowbox, from concept to market. 9 out of 10 startups fail, not because the founder didn't work hard, but because the market said no. Our team knows how to build products. We know how to launch software, but markets don't care about plans. So here's the challenge. Can Glowbox reach $1 million in annual recurring revenue in just 12 months? This isn't a case study. It's a live experiment. Can it be done? Watch and find out. Over the next 12 months, we're not going to analyze founders from the outside. We're going to build a company in public. The Catalyst Effect podcast will document the creation of a new company called Glowbox, from concept to market, with a clear and measurable objective, reaching $1 million in annual recurring revenue within 12 months. We already have a completed market validation. We have a validated core concept with a working prototype. What comes next is the part most people never get to see: the decisions, the trade-offs, the evidence, the team building, the moments where assumptions collide with reality. This series will cover everything. We will build the audience statement and the problem statement in the open. We'll walk through the solution to problem matrix, product design decisions, and what we are intentionally choosing not to build. We'll talk about team composition, go-to-market roles, financial controls, market strategy, beta programs, monetization models, and when investment dollars help versus when they destroy optionality. We'll test the product publicly, offering free trials. We'll ask for feedback and use that feedback to pressure test our assumptions. We'll talk to other software providers and adjacent players to validate market fit honestly rather than defensively. We'll invite guests on every week, not for storytelling, but to expand understanding. Operators, practitioners, and experts who live inside of the constraints founders often overlook will help us examine decisions from the angles we will otherwise miss. Here's the important part. I don't know if Glowbox will reach $1 million in ARR within 12 months. What I do know is that we have enough signal, enough discipline, and enough belief in the Catalyst method to put it to the test in public. If the market tells us the goal is not achievable as defined, we're going to pivot. We're going to do so publicly and explain why. That's not failure. That is the method working as intended. Most founders only share their story after the outcome is known. This is a series about everything that happens before certainty exists, when pressure is real and decisions matter. Glowbox isn't just content. Glowbox is the experiment. So I have been in the startup game for a while, and I've observed almost everybody does what I think is backwards. So the first thing that they do is they say, I have an idea. And then they say, I can build something that solves that. And then they go and they go from an idea to a product, and then they take that product and they try to turn it into a company. In my experience, if I already know who the customer is and I know what their pain is, I know what the problem that's causing the pain, I understand the consequence, I understand the urgency of what they need to fix, and I know what's causing it. Now, yes, absolutely, I can create a technology solution to solve that, but more importantly, now I know how to set up my advertising dollars. I know how to set up my landing pages. It doesn't matter how clean my list is, right? And if my infrastructure doesn't get the email. So this was a problem that, one, we know a lot of people that need it solved. When people talk about building startups, they usually talk about ideas, features, or funding. What they don't talk about is the moment you realize that what you built isn't what you need. This episode starts right there. I built a POC, a proof of concept, early prototype to determine if I could use SMTP to relay messages across multiple email accounts. So the current requirement that's there was literally just, is this possible? And then we used AI to derive the requirement from the prototype. And nobody came along and said, wait a second, this isn't going to work. And so the requirement was built from a prototype, which existed to test if something was even possible, did not exist to actually solve a production problem. So now we are rushing to get into production so that we can meet our business goal of $1 million ARR in 12 months, which is an exciting goal. I hope we reach it. However, we didn't ever stop and say, wait a second. What are the key gaps between the prototype and the market need? Jesus, who's helping us in sales and has used a lot of these mail delivery systems in the past, found a issue. He thought it was a bug. But it turns out that the pool limits, the way that we're determining and metering the email send per mailbox, was actually really wrong. The email queue is one global email queue. So if we were to have 50 tenants, they would all be sending from the same queue. And if they had 100 pools, we would have hundreds of thousands of pools running from the same queue, and the only metering capabilities there was the service executes every 5 seconds and picks up 10 emails, which means that we would have basically no actual capacity to meter the accounts. And even before our large BPO client, even before we added all of their email accounts, we would exceed the capacity that they need. We wouldn't be able to even process one BPO's account the way that I don't think we could even run our internal pilot the way it is right now.
Well, actually, that's a bit of a problem, more common than you think when it comes to requirements. Sometimes and this just comes to my mind, Jesus, he seems to be a great SME for cutting that up. And this is why in requirements, it is so important that we're not only addressing regular user personas. I know that some BAs, some product managers love creating user personas, but also having real people there in that process of you creating that user journey flow is so important, because I know that if Jesus had been involved from the beginning, right, he would probably tell them, hey, add me as a user persona, add me, I have this vision of what the product should do for me. So once it's time to build out the requirements out of the user journeys, out of the user personas, we would have been able to get that up in the requirements over there.
What you're about to hear sounds technical, but it isn't a technology problem. It's what happens when requirements are built from assumptions instead of real usage. The technology is just where the mistake shows up. We need an early pilot. We need a pilot within 15 days. And we're late on our pilot right now, but because we pushed for the pilot with actual users using the application as quickly as possible, actually probably quicker than possible, which I tend to do, we were able to catch, wait a second, we have an infrastructure problem. Hold on, worse than the infrastructure problem. We have a requirements problem. We have a gap between what we told the developers to build and what the market needs. And a lot of times the developers get blamed for this.
It's true. And I know that this is a topic that definitely would open an even more bigger discussion, like for example the importance of MVPs, at the ready to market type of projects. But I think that early on you have managed to showcase the importance of building a prototype. If you're scaling it into an MVP, make sure that you're also scaling your team. Bring in
requirements.
Bring in the right people, because they are going to be key when you are putting out these requirements for the more advanced phases of the project.
And that was likely a test case miss as well, because right now we're testing, can I send an email from a mail client and have those emails distributed across email accounts? Awesome. We never actually simulated or required the simulation of an actual production run, which would be, I'm not sending an email. I'm sending 90 emails, and I'm sending them in the course of an hour. And I need that to be distributed across the mailboxes and slowed down to the point where it is a more realistic interpretation or realistic operation of how emails should be sent. So that was a miss on our side. And I knew Glowbox is fully capable of doing a mail merge from Excel. I could take 100 email accounts, mail merge it into an email, and send them in one moment. And if that were to have occurred, Glowbox would have picked up 10 emails every 5 seconds and sent them across the same pool. And even that doesn't actually fill true production, because in true production, what would happen is we would have 50 pools active, and all of those pools would be sending emails at the same time. And just from reviewing the original requirements, I can tell you, using logic, it's not going to work. It's going to fall on its face. And that was because as soon as I had the prototype working, I should have gotten the subject matter expert and immediately re-reviewed the requirements.
Correct. And I think that also showcased the importance of making sure that your team is also capable of adapting and being flexible, because as you go on the way, refining these requirements, because that's important as well. And I know that many teams don't do that, because once they set out a backlog, once they have a set of requirements, they're like stuck with that. But when they get to the point where it's being tested, right? Like us right now, it's like, yeah, but you told us to build it that way, or but no, it's important to be open to that change.
And this actually speaks all the way to my heart, right? Because the Catalyst method is measure and build, right? So learn, measure, build. Go figure out what you're going to build. Get rid of the unknowns and uncertainty immediately with something that's certain, and then build it. Well, we did that, and we built it, and it was wrong. So now what?
What do you do with that, right? So yeah, and I know that most people think that when you talk about agile, and when you say that you don't like that so many people take it the wrong way, it is these types of scenarios. What agile truly is it gives you the opportunity to have a requirement, testing it out, see if it works, and then making the necessary adjustments so you can end up delighting the real customer, not just your development team, not just your product manager, delight actual customers.
We had a working prototype. We proved something was technically possible, and we treated that like momentum. But there's a difference between proving something can work and knowing it meets your audience needs. At the time, it felt like progress, but in reality, it was an assumption we never stopped to challenge. The full engineering team has been here. They haven't even worked their second week yet. So we are early, thank God. How many millions of times have you heard me say this? Design a solution that matters, specifically built for an audience that cares. Wow. And I didn't do that. I had an idea. And I went off and I started building. And then I went to the analysis team, document what I built. And then I went to the engineering team, get this into production. And then I went to the sales team, sell it. Now, thank God we did this in a matter of 20 days. And now I can realize I did what so many other founders have done, but I didn't keep going for 18 months and exert all of my wealth and all of my resources into this. We stopped and we measured and we tested quickly and realized, there's a gap. Hold on. Isaac has to slow down. Isaac has to stop, and we need to stop.
I want to bring up something that it is important in here for this project, for the audience to know, is that you're not here coming in just as a founder, as the one with the idea. You're also coming into the team as product manager and also as a developer. So many of these startups have similar situations. You have founders that are actually the developers in the first time. You have founders that are the marketing or the salespeople the first few months, but you are grasping, or you are showing to the world that it is important to compromise.
Yeah, and then having the discipline, identify your core features and having the discipline to not add anything additional that could slow you down from testing those core and doing the market validation on those core features, really, really important, because I could have easily just jeopardized the testing of the email and pool metering, which is a core feature. Then we're not going to be able to operate in the market if we don't have that. Glowbox is designed to be a email proxy, which means you send a email from one account and it goes and sends it from other accounts, and then any replies to those other accounts come back to the main account. Well, the retrieval of email uses a protocol either called IMAP or POP, and we had an IMAP protocol, and that was the server that gave all of the emails to our clients. And that specific protocol that we were using, the service it turned out very malformed and completely inappropriate for the task. It was deprecated 10 years ago. And there were several challenges with the implementation, but even if we fixed the implementation challenges, the service itself was not suitable for what we were building. So that means that the overall infrastructure for the mail service on a mail distribution and delivery platform had to change completely. And so we have our pilot starting tomorrow, and now we are, it was supposed to start today, but we had hoped that the pilot would start tomorrow because we have really tight deadlines here. But now the question is, can we implement it in time? It's actually a really important lesson. We have to be able to pivot, but we also have to test our key assumptions fast. So what I had been doing, and engineers will do this. Elon Musk has said this for years. Engineers will spend weeks performance tuning and optimizing something that never should have existed to begin with. And that's exactly what we were doing. We were attempting to optimize code that was built on a platform that was completely inappropriate for our solution. So now, fortunately, a lot of the code can migrate natively. The service that we're using now is more of a JavaScript native service. So the code that we wrote in Node can be translated to JavaScript easily enough and run inside of this service. But and the pivoting is great, but the pivoting wouldn't have been required if we had tested our key assumptions early. And that's something I always warn my clients about. But founders, when you are out of the consulting role and get into the founder's role, sometimes they start forgetting their own advice really quickly. And that's exactly what happened with me. So I'm going to get back to work, roll up my sleeves and keep coding. I did some research. You're right. It looks like it doesn't matter what we do, even if we do manage to get the IMAP service to work. It's just too light of a script. It doesn't have handling for these clients. And the whole premise of Glowbox is that it works with any that it works with any mail client, any system. There's a bunch of errors in the scripts itself, but even if we fix them, it's not going to handle the premise of Glowbox. All right. So what are our options?
Well, from what I have been investigating, there are several Node packages, Node libraries that are able to provide us with a framework for SMTP and IMAP servers. I was taking a look at them. Some of them are reliable. Some of them are using NoSQL database, but because we have a indexed and a relational database, we can use some of them. And actually, the AI itself provided them. So I think that because they can provide them, they can use them and they can research them. I think that in the whole events of today, I think we can get like a running test environment. So we can actually test if the clients and the actual IMAP server works. And not just for retrieving our own emails, but the emails that come from the mailboxes pools. I think that in day and a half or 2 days max, we can provide this this new IMAP framework server that we might try with Wild Duck. Yeah.
Okay, so you're leaning towards Wild Duck. I think that Wild Duck is our last option just because of the licensing. But I guess this means that most likely we're not going to make our pilot this week. Most founders only share their story after the outcome is known. This series is about everything that happens before certainty exists, when the pressure is real and the decisions matter. In the next episode, we're going to go back to the beginning and rebuild the requirements the right way.